What's up, everybody? Here we are, another broadcast live from Ultimate Studios Inc. So today, tapping part 2. I mean, it's just more of the same cool stuff. And let's see, I'll quickly review a couple of things that I did last week for anybody that didn't catch it. The concept is basically, you add with your right hand any note that you want in the scale. So in this case, I was doing stuff in E. It was going between all the modes in E. So if you just grab like the pentatonic, let's say, and then you can, for example, just grab just some pentatonic stuff, and then you just move. Alright, so the most important thing is that you have to be aware of both hands at the same time. So it's not just, okay, I'll just worry about my right hand and then I forget about it, what the left is doing. You can't do that, because you have to pretty much split your eyesight in two and get an overview. So you don't grab a wrong note. And then, it just becomes all wrong notes. Now, the hardest thing about the whole tapping thing is how you manage noise, right? Noise. There's a lot of players now that use a trick, which is a hairband, right? They slide the hairband up and then they start doing their two-handed stuff. And I consider that, cheating, because if you don't have the hairband, then you're screwed. So try to do as much as you can with just your own muting. And the muting usually comes from the left hand, thumb and like wrapping around the neck. And then the right hand is pretty much holding on the fingerboard, just grabbing onto it, and you try to not create additional noise. So there's just two approaches, right? You have the free right hand, like that. So all the muting is done just with the left. And the other approach is when you tap with your index, and you tuck your pick in there, and you have control over the strings. That's what Eddie Van Halen does, right? He just uses his index. Then other guys like Greg Howe, right? He's tapping freely, like that, which actually is harder to do. Now he uses a hairband. So, but originally when he was starting out with the whole tapping thing, like no hairband. So once you get that going, the next step is, okay, what can I do rhythmically to make any scale choice or any arpeggio interesting? Well, like I talked about last time, you can group pretty much in 3s or in 4s. And then you got the odd groupings, which usually to make them sound smooth, you have to play them very fast so that you don't think about the odd number. Classic example is when you do 5s, right? So when you do 5s, you're doing this kind of stuff. So if I start counting 5s, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, it's harder. So just concentrate on that downbeat. And then you don't even notice that you're doing 5 notes, right? If you're doing even numbers, let's say 4, let's say you go back in the pentatonic back and forth. Right, that's going up, up, up and down, just groups of 4. There's another variation just in 4 where you alternate between the left and the right. Right, these are fairly easy to move around and great for large intervals. I do the James Bond thing right there. All right, and it's very easy to just change the tonality of all these licks by changing one note or 2 notes. So you have to pretty much know what you're doing. So don't just start tapping randomly without knowing what scale you're using, because it can sound pretty bad. And then the other cool thing that tapping can do is create really, let's say, atonal things where you're just going for the effect, the atonal effect. So pretty random note choice, and that's the whole objective. For example, I can grab my pentatonic, let's say if I'm in A, for example, and I'm using the symmetrical position up here on 12, so I don't have to think about changing every note. So I'll stay on 12, right? Just grab those notes, and then here I'll stay in A minor pentatonic. Now, if I want to really make it crazy sounding, then I'll move this whole portion of my right hand down a half step, and then I'll get, and I can totally keep it symmetrical if I want it. So everything is a minor third, and really becomes that type of computer music effect, right? But conceptually, it's very simple. I'm just doing a diminished triad, symmetrically down the neck. So you're basically going for that sound effect. And the cool thing you can do with that is when you start skipping strings, it's really, really out there. Now, if you want crazier sounds, then you also want to look for maybe weirder intervals on your left hand, right? These are, right now I'm just doing half steps on my left hand. You can do that. You can do whole steps here. And then, for example, move everything chromatically in half steps, right? And it's pretty wicked. And that's the whole point of it, right? It's just, you're just going for really weird sounding atonal licks. Now what I was doing there is just the same ascending idea, right? Always so you tap, pull up, and then hammer, okay? If I go back and forth, I'll get this. Now here, when I go down the string, I have to generate the note, right? When you do that with scales, it becomes a little more complicated, because you got to generate a lot of the notes from your left hand. See, so right there, when I switch strings, see that note, I gotta create it from nowhere. Now, what are the other cool things you can do besides changing the rhythms and changing the scales? Well, basically, when you start going intervallic, or you add certain notes that you would normally not do because the left hand cannot do them. So the best example is when you do, for example, arpeggios. When you do arpeggios, I like to do this a lot, which is play the note, the actual arpeggio, right? Every note, 1, 3, and 5. And then I just tap whatever high note I want. And that's a great way also to work on the timing of your arpeggios, because the last note is the downbeat. Now when I do that, when I descend, I'm just coming down and hammering. So I'm not sweeping back at all. You really have to time when you start picking again. Right there, I tap the flat 7 and it becomes what? Dominant. Right? Now, the other thing you can do is, since you're doing the whole arpeggio thing, and this is also pretty neat, you tap and then you slide to another note. So you can go as far as your fingerboard allows, and as long as the note doesn't die. Okay. You can do a sequence with arpeggios like that. That's another thing that I like to do a lot. Now, when you do that, the left hand is pretty much on autopilot. You don't have to, you cannot be looking at your left hand the whole time, because you got to watch out for the right hand. So you practice the muscle memory of that move first. As I'm doing an A triad. And then I'll add the tap. And then I can tap that there, or I can tap here. It really depends what color you want to give your arpeggio. That's just going up to the root. Now, when you come down, right? So I'm not picking anything. I'm gonna slide out. Now, I like to do this one. Because on the second arpeggio, I do a major 7 arpeggio with that high F sharp. So I go up, A, that's A7, right? I can also go ascending. Sky's the limit, right? like the sound of the neck pickup, go there. Okay? And that is very simple because I'm just grabbing the triad and creating the color by just a note that's not in that triad. So you can make it a 6, you can make it a 7, you can make it a flat 7, you can do even things like 9s. Right, so you tap the root and you slide up to the 9. That's, I would say it's fairly easy once you are comfortable with arpeggios. Now this next lick I want to show you is more of a string skipping tapping thing. And these can actually become quite complicated depending on how much movement you want to create. So I'll do it in A. So here it is. So that's my A triad, right? And then if I want, now the problem is, see that note, if I tap that note, I got that note there, so I don't want to repeat it. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go shift up here, and then I'm going to grab this flat 7, and there's a dominant sound. Then I'm going to skip the B string and grab the high B, C sharp, E, and then I'm going to tap the G. So there you go, it's like an A9. The one thing you might want to do in the beginning is pick that note, okay? When you come back down, you can actually hammer it. Now if I do it over the E thing I was doing before, I'll move it up to E, and here it's a little less stretchy because the frets are closer. But I gotta tap all the way up to 22. That's a wild arpeggio, and you can really create your own variations just based on how many notes do you want to do per string, and that's where the challenge lies. So if I take, for example, a pentatonic arpeggio, which you can hammer and do legato with. Right, so I'll simplify it. I'll just grab the C here. So pretty much C6, right? Root, 5th, 6th, root. Here's your 3rd, 5th, and 6th again. Right? And that is basically just grabbing the notes of the pentatonic . And that's how you can get a lot of mileage out of just a couple of shapes that you normally play anyway. And the other thing, the other cool arpeggio that I like to do is when you tap half steps above the high note. So in the case of, let's say, E minor, right? You got that cool half step sound in there, which I could also do with the flat, but the tap is just cleaner. So if I do this, let's say over this, I'll do a B minor to give it a more minor 9 sound, right? The other thing that I do a lot is just take more notes on that same run, and then suddenly you got more ideas. So that's the idea, right? I can also do the same concept with pentatonics, right? But it's always the same, right? Don't think it's like, oh my God, pentatonics sounds so different. Just make sure your left hand is comfortable with traveling so much, and know what notes you're going to be tapping, know what key you're in, and then things are going to work. And if you go for the atonal thing, oh God, you know, there's so many things you can do. Right? That's just nasty, crazy nasty stuff. Right? Atonal stuff, right? That's just for fun. Okay, that's it, folks. Some tapping. Have fun, and see you next time.